Yashomati Nandana Raja Varanana Yashomati Nandana Raja Varanana Gokularam Janata Gokularam Janata Gokularam Janata Gokularam Janata Gopiparam Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Krishna Nam Sankirtan. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namashrestam Manamapi Sachiputra Matta Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Murupurim Maturim Gargoshtapatim Radha Kundam Girivara Moho Radhika Madhavasam Rakto Yasya Pratata Kripaya Shri Guru Tamvatosmi. Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam bhangum langhayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam rupa kadamahyam dadati swaparantikam Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya eva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So we're continuing with Lord Krishna's description to Uddhava of the different qualities of his devotees. And I think we've covered 3, and there are 28. So I don't want to, I'm not going to really dwell on these because we have several chapters to get through. And so I'll just make some brief remarks, and if anybody, has any questions afterward about any of these qualities, feel free to ask. You want me to go through the English again? Please. Okay.
You can tell us what the first 3 qualities were. So you
don't have access to the other classes? Well, I'm going to read the verses, the translation of the verses. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Uddhava, a saintly person's merciful and never injures others. Kripalu, right? And Akritadroha. And Titikshu, even if others are aggressive, he's always tolerant and forgiving. So those are the first 3. His strength and meaning in life come from the truth itself. He's free from all envy and jealousy. And his mind is equal in material happiness and distress. Thus he dedicates his time to work for the welfare of others. His intelligence is never bewildered by material desires, and he has controlled his senses. His behavior is always pleasing, never harsh, and always exemplary. And he's free from possessiveness. He never endeavors in ordinary worldly activities and strictly controls his eating. He therefore always remains peaceful and steady. A saintly person is thoughtful and accepts me as his only shelter. Such a person is very cautious in the execution of his duties and is never subject to superficial transformations because he's steady and noble, even in a distressing situation. He has conquered over the 6 material qualities, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. He is free from all desire for prestige and offers honor to others. He is expert in reviving the Krishna consciousness of others and therefore never cheats anyone. Rather, he's a well-wishing friend to all, being most merciful. Such a saintly person must be considered the most learned of men. He perfectly understands that the ordinary religious duties prescribed by me in various Vedic scriptures possess favorable qualities that purify the performer. And he knows that neglect of such duties constitutes a discrepancy in one's life. Having taken complete shelter at my lotus feet, however, a saintly person ultimately renounces such ordinary religious duties and worships me alone. He is thus considered to be the best among all living entities. So we talked about Kripalu, Akrita Dosha, and Tikshu. Then he's Satyasar. He's fixed in the truth. Satya means truth. Sara means, anybody know? Circle. No.
No.
Fixed.
Fixed. No. Means essence.
Oh,
Sara.
Saragrahi.
Saragrahi. So it's such a common, it's a word so commonly used in the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Krishna Das Kaviraj says, when Srila Prabhupada translates, Krishna Das Kaviraj is saying that the order of the spiritual master is the essence of all. Well, Prabhupada says the active principle. But the word that Krishna Das Kaviraj uses is Sara. It's the essence of devotional service. This I've characterized it as a catalyst. So Satyasar means that he understands his real position. He understands that he's consciousness and that consciousness is Krishna Nityadas. Krishna Nityadas. He's always a servant of Krishna. That's the real constitution of the jiva, subordinate to Krishna. And that's how the devotee lives. The devotee lives as an eternal servant of Krishna. He or she sees that there is really no other business. So they don't waste time doing things that aren't essential, that aren't asara. That's word sound familiar? Asara?
Like asura.
Like what?
Asura.
No. Asara means missing the point. In the case of some of Advaita Acharya's sons, who are characterized as asara, the word that's used is useless. But asara really means missing the point. They miss the essence, who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was. Therefore, they weren't able to appreciate it. But others of Advaita Acharya's sons were able to. So when someone is fixed in the essential truth of devotional service like this, then they become actually, they act boldly. They do things that that others might think, might not consider doing. Just as Swami sometimes says, everybody, to the extent that we understand we exist, To the extent that we understand that we're eternal, then we can behave properly. That's Satya Sar. If you understand that Satya, you exist eternally, and you can't not exist, then you may do things that may seem rash to other people. So, just as in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was exhorting Arjuna to be bold on the battlefield. He drew his chariot in between the two armies and said, there they are, all your attachments. Your business now, slay your attachments. That was his real business. This is, in Arabic, jihad. This is the real struggle, the real Kampf in German. The next is anavadyatma. Anavadyatma. Listen, the devotee knows that the material world is temporary, that there's nothing really to be gained here. So he doesn't envy anything that anybody else has. And that's, as we've seen, we've looked at this, gone back and looked at the second verse of the Bhagavatam a number of times, just in this, as we discussed this chapter. And what is the qualification for appreciating Srimad Bhagavatam?
Having lost interest in everything to do with Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha.
Okay. Dharma praunchita kaitavatra. And what else? Paramo nirmatsaranam satam. They're satam, they're fixed in the absolute truth, and they're pure. Therefore, they're pure. Because they're acting as pure consciousness. Right? And nirmatsaranam, same as anavadyatma. Not envious. They're not envious of others. Because whatever others have, they have it now, and they're not going to have it in a little bit. Like the example that I've given, it's a little maybe generational specific. Maybe some of you folks don't know the name, but there was a fellow when we were young, kind of the Donald Trump of our generation, of our parents' generation or grandparents' generation, Howard Hughes. Super rich man. Owned an aircraft manufacturing company. He owned a movie studio. He owned starlets. He had access to all the most beautiful women, some of the most beautiful women in the world. If you get my drift. He had everything you could want. He was famous. He was handsome. He was rich. He had it all. And when he got old, all he could think of, he became nuts. He was insane. All he could think of was he was going to lose it to a woman. He didn't trust women. He didn't trust anybody. And he certainly didn't trust anybody because they had germs. And germs would take away everything that he worked so hard for. And guess what? He lost it all. He died. And he lost it every single penny. Every memory of all the beautiful women that he enjoyed. All that fame. All those pictures in magazines and on magazine covers and in newsreels. All gone. He had no access to that stuff anymore. Doesn't have no clue where he went next. So when we understand that, everything we have is here today and gone tomorrow or tonight, who knows if you're going to wake up tomorrow? Especially when you get to be my age, it's a progressively greater miracle to wake up each morning than the morning before. It's a fact. It's just the way it is. I wake up in the morning and I think, hot dang. Right? Nahang vipro, nachanarapati napi vaishudin. That's exactly where I start. I just think, whoop, cool, made it through another one. That little baby aspirin I took at bedtime did the job. Right? It's not the baby aspirin that saved me. It's I got a certain number of breaths or heartbeats left in his body, and it's going to play out the way it does. It's got an expiration date, and nobody knows where it is. Just like in that old Ridley Scott film, Blade Runner. Those androids, I can't remember what they were called. They were trying to figure out when's their expiration date, right? They confronted the head of the company that designed and made them, the guy who invented them. Wanted to meet his maker. What's his name? Rutger Hauer's character. I can't remember his name right now. Very beautiful scene when his time expired. He accepted his death very gracefully. And he talked about all his memories. And then he said, all these memories will be lost. All will be lost like tears in rain. Great line.
Wow,
It's a great line. Just gone. But, the thing was they wanted to know their expiration date. So when I wake up every morning, I just think, whoa, cool. Made it through another one. Sometimes at the checkout stand, the clerk will ask me, so how are you doing today? And I'll just shrug and say, I think I'm going to make it. I think I'm going to make it through another one. Not a bad thing. Yeah, and I'm not that old. My dad's 26 years older than me, and he's still going. So, Anavadhyatma, he doesn't envy anybody. When Srila Prabhupada discusses this non-enviousness, this nirmatsaranam, in his purport, one of my favorite sentences, this is a sentence that changed my life as much as any. This is a sentence that convinced me that this is my life. Where he said that the devotees of the Lord, they not only do they not compete with others for the resources of material nature, but they strive to create a competition-less society with God at the center. When I read that sentence, I knew I had found the revolution we were looking for. It was it. And this is what I had to do. Up until that point, even though I was living in the temple, I hadn't actually, maybe at that point, I didn't see myself necessarily as a disciple, but I saw this is what I have to dedicate my life to, because this is a real revolution. I mean, who could imagine a competition-less society with God at the center? Nobody else is my enemy. What a life. So they don't have any business in agitating other people or criticizing other people. Today, someone came on one of the threads that I started maybe the other day. Oh, maybe it was yesterday. It was when I posted the story of the pujari at Advaita Bhavan in Shantipur. And there was a devotee who used to come and chant intensely with tears for a long time. And then he didn't come anymore. And then he showed up one day, years later, dressed as a Tridandi sannyasi. And this pujari recognized him. He says, oh, you used to come a lot and chant so intensely. Who are you? And so Srila Prabhupada introduced himself. My name is Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami. Tomorrow, I'm leaving from Kolkata for the US to spread Lord Chaitanya's teachings to America. And it didn't register on this pujari until years later, 15 years later. He saw a Back to Godhead magazine, and from America, with a picture of Srila Prabhupada as the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The guy came to the Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir with that magazine in his hand. He told the devotees that story. Mm-hmm. So someone came on and tried to use it as an occasion to criticize other devotees who hadn't taken hadn't seen that had that same sense of urgency that Srila Prabhupada had. And even after he implored them. So this devotee is saying, yeah, all these devotees did. And someone took exception to that. And I was out doing errands, and when I came back, there was this whole hoo-hoo going on in my thread. I had to go through and delete. And this devotee wrote, says, you knew this was going to take that turn when so-and-so showed up. And I said, I didn't really. Sometimes he behaves, sometimes he doesn't.
I'm lost.
Good. And you don't know. But the thing is, this devotee, he's missing, somehow or other, he's missing this quality because he's not able to control his mind and his senses, and he sees some need to agitate other devotees and to criticize other devotees. And if someone is anavadhyatma, non-envious, near matsaranam, they don't see that need. They don't see that need. And since that need doesn't appear in their mind, they don't, there's nothing to respond to. Sama, the devotee is equal in happiness and distress. I mean, this is practically one of the first lessons we get in Bhagavad Gita. If your consciousness, what's going on here, doesn't have anything to do with you, it doesn't touch you. It doesn't touch us. So why get all, upset, all freaked out if something goes wrong, or have a huge party if something goes right? Why become distracted, from our real business by these things? Oh, okay. If there's a problem, let's note it and figure out what we can do to improve things. But to become disturbed and distracted by it, same thing with the happiness. Oh, I got a big check or something like that. Woohoo! Let's go out and have a big party. I'm going to buy a new car and all that stuff. Those things distract us from understanding. They distract us from being satyasahar. They distract us from our situation as pure consciousness. So, and that's the lesson, the first lesson Arjuna got. Here are your attachments. Your business right now is to sever these attachments, literally, physically, cut them off. How's that strike you? And so, and that non-attachment as a kind of baseline, that's not even really spiritual understanding. That's not really satyasar. The Buddhists have that. Because because Buddhism isn't really monolithic, some Buddhists understand their consciousness and what's going on here. The way some of them put it is, well, that's what's happening today. Tomorrow will be different. It'll be better or it'll be worse. Tomorrow will be different. So this is what's happening today. It's not, Buddha taught them, don't worry about it. That's what their meditation is about, like Vipassana meditation. You can make that's something that's really, really clear in that film, Doing Vipassana. That lady who became the warden of that prison, Kiran Bedi, who, by the way, was a guest of honor at the 50th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's departure from Kolkata on the Jaladuta the other day. She's an important person in I don't know what her position is now, but she didn't stay a prison warden her whole time. She got that job as a kind of a punishment for giving a traffic ticket to some big shot. He took her off her regular police job and made her the warden of one of the worst prisons in the Indian prison system. And she made the place a jewel by introducing this meditation. And the whole idea behind their meditation, they started out with a pilot program of 10-day Vipassana intensive. And they just sit for hours a day and watch their thoughts, their impulses, their desires, their anger, their rage come and go. They just have to sit there and tolerate it. And by the end of those 10 days, they saw all the stuff that I did that made me a thug that made me a thief or a murderer or a rapist or whatever it was that got me into this horrible place. If I had only known, I could have just let it go. That rage, it's going to pass anyway. That grasping, that need to have whatever it was that wasn't mine, that would have passed if I had just watched it. They start watching their breath, and they watch everything that's going on in their mind. And when they see, after a while, whatever it is that's going on there, that subsides, it fades away, and something else comes. You just don't get excited by these things. So this is a kind of a very baseline understanding for spiritual life. Sarvopakar, Sarva Upakar. Sarva Upakaraka, actually. Sarva Upakaraka means someone who works for everyone else's benefit. In other words, such people, they're not caught up in their own desires or their own needs. They don't need any position. They don't need a big house. They don't need fame. They don't need anything. Rather, they're just going to work for others' benefit. And we've seen people like that, even people who aren't, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, seen people like that. Mother Teresa was like that. She became famous like that with her missionaries of charity, her own, established her own order, working for others, simply for others' benefit. And we see Pope Francis, even though he's a Jesuit, he seems to have, he seems to have the best of the Jesuit sensibility, along with a little Franciscan sensibility as well. And he's trying to show the Catholic Church that, rather than just, feathering their own nests, whatever assets they have should be used to benefit others. So the devotee sees everyone's real need. And our real need is for this spiritual understanding. So they simply make themselves available to help other people revive their Krishna consciousness, which is one of these others. Vishwanath Chakravarti, in Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the Madhyama Bhaktas who teach, they actually act as agents of Krishna's Kripa Shakti. Who is Krishna's Kripa Shakti?
Radhe.
Say it loud, because if Vrindavan is listening, she won't be able to hear you.
Radhe.
Radhe. Jai Radhe.
Jai Radhe.
Prabhupada, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, she's described as Krishna's compassionate nature. So the devotees act as agents of Krishna's compassionate nature. That's how they behave. And so what characterizes the Madhyama Bhaktas? So we got three classes of bhaktas. We've got the Uttama Bhaktas, the best, and then we've got the kind of in between, and then we've got sort of materialistic bhaktas, Kanishta or Prakrita Bhaktas. So what's the characteristic of the Uttama Bhakta?
They are able to differentiate between different types of people.
No. What is the characteristic? You'll have to listen to the question. What is the characteristic of the Uttama Bhakta?
They're the best.
Well, they're the best. That's what Uttama means, best. So what characterizes, what makes them the best?
Purity.
What kind of purity? What degree of purity?
Bhakti.
They see Krishna everywhere, in everything. They see everybody serving Krishna better than they are. So they have no sense of discrimination. They're Krishnamoy, or Krishnamayi. And the Kanishtas, the Kanishta Bhaktas, what characterizes them?
You see Krishna in the deity.
Yeah, they see Krishna in the deity. They see, oh, my church, my temple, my deity. But they don't necessarily see Krishna anywhere else. They don't certainly, they don't see Krishna in the devotees. They don't know how to behave with devotees. I mean, that's how we know if someone is a Kanishta Bhakta. They don't know how to behave with devotees because they don't understand what Lord Shiva tells Parvati. Right? Parvati asks Lord Shiva, what's the best worship of all? And he says, yes, Vishnu Radha. Right? He says the best worship is the worship of Vishnu. But then he says, Tasmat Paratarang Devi, but even better than that, my dear goddess, Tadhyanam Samarchana is service to those things that are connected with Krishna, the devotees, Tulsi, the temple, the mission. These are all Krishna's Tadiya, his things, his things that are connected with Krishna. So Shiva tells Parvati, that's even better. But the Kanishta Bhaktas can't see that. All they can see is, oh, I'm a Hare Krishna devotee. And they like to go to the temple, make a big show of, doing all kinds of namaskarams to the deities, putting a buck in the box. And, they just walk, as Guru Maharaj likes to say, even if there's a class going on, they'll just walk in, walk up, do their whole thing. Maybe nowadays they probably take a selfie of themselves, in front of the deity or something like that. They put they'll put a buck in the box and then they'll split. They don't stay for the class. They don't stay to associate with devotees or anything. This is my church. This is my God, and and everybody else's God, not so hot. So that kind of sectarianism is a characteristic. And what's the characteristic of the Madhyama Bhaktas?
Discrimination.
Yeah, the Uttama can't discriminate, and the Kanishta can't discriminate. But the Madhyama Bhaktas can discriminate. They see four kinds of persons. They see God, the devotees, they see the innocent, and they see those who are averse. And so they worship God. They make friends with the devotees. They're kind, para upakar. They work for the benefit of the innocent, which is pretty much everybody. And they don't have any time at all to waste on those who are actually averse to God. Kamair ahatadhi. They see everything as related to Krishna. They don't have any desires of their own. Their whole business is trying to satisfy Krishna's desires. Whatever Krishna wants, that's what they'll do. And how do they know what Krishna wants? They hear from the devotees. How does the Kanishta Bhakta know to offer obeisances to the deity in the temple?
Someone told them.
Someone told them, and that someone was a devotee. So how do we? So if someone is kamaya ahatadi, all their desires are engaging in making arrangements for Krishna externally, and when they attain the highest stages of sadhana and into bhava, then internally as well. It's like the prayer, the sixth prayer in Guru Vashtaka. The Guru is always making different kinds of tasteful arrangements for the pleasure of Sri Radha and Madhava in the forests of Vrindavan. So externally, they may be decorating the deities in such a way that when we see them, our minds are captivated and all our fuses are kind of blown. We see Sri Radha Madhava. Everybody was gaga over last week's outfit, and I'm looking at this outfit, and I'm thinking, if Sumati doesn't stop doing that with those skirts, I'm going to end up becoming a devotee. Because it's, you just think, oh my, that's so. Externally, they're making all kinds of arrangements for the pleasure of Sri Sri Madhava, and also doing teaching and preaching, bringing people to come and appreciate the beauty of the deities and the beauty of the kirtans and the beauty of the Harikatha. And they see everything as Krishna's energy. Therefore, it has to be, it has to be engaged in Krishna's service. Danta, the devotee, is steady, cautious, repulsed by sinful activities. It's not at all attracted to sinful activities. So very well behaved. Mridu. Mridu means very gentle. They don't see friends and enemies. They don't see us and them. There's no mamaka pandavascha going on in their hearts. They see everybody related to Krishna. So their behavior is always gentle. They're always very respectful of everyone. Shuchi. Devotee is clean, pure in heart. Satam, as we see in the second verse of the Bhagavatam. And they don't have any contact with things that are impure. If they do, they purify those things. They don't submit themselves to these things. And their behavior is always exemplary. Devotees at kinchana. A kinchana means, you don't have anything. But what it really means is not so much that you don't have anything, is that you're free from possessiveness. Not so much that you're free of stuff, but you're free of possessiveness. Whatever you have, it's to be used in Krishna's service. It's like Sanatana Goswami. We were thinking of Sanatana Goswami earlier today. Sanatana Goswami, he worshipped, or maybe it was last night, he worshipped Madan Mohan under a tree, in a tree. Kept Madan Mohan in a tree, and he gave him whatever he was able to beg. Dry chapatis, no butter, not even any salt. Madan Mohan was criticizing him. What's the deal? You can't even get salt for my chapatis. He said, I'm an old man, I'm poor. You want salt? You can get it yourself. So here comes the salt barge down the river, gets stuck on a sandbar. And Sanatana Goswami helps the merchant get his barge free from the sandbar. And he's so grateful, he builds a temple for Madan Mohan that we still, you just see that picture. You just see a picture of that dome at Madan Mohan, you just think Vrindavan. That's just like, that means Vrindavan, right? So Sanatana Goswami had no use for a temple, except Madan Mohan wanted a temple. So the salt merchant said, oh, wow, what can I do? And he said, oh, why don't you build a temple for my deity? He's giving me a hard time because I keep him in a tree and don't feed him well. Aniha, he's completely aloof from worldly affairs. He never acts on his own behalf. He only acts on Krishna's behalf. It's like somebody says, there's some a small group of devotees who say none of Prabhupada's disciples can accept disciples. They have to initiate on Prabhupada's behalf. Excuse me, disciple doesn't do anything on his or her own behalf. Disciple never acts except on behalf of the spiritual master and the Lord. They're aloof from that whole idea, my disciples or anything like that. They feel responsibility, but they're not, not attached. They're not grasping. So devotee is aniha, doesn't do anything for himself or herself. Completely aloof. Devotee is mitabuk. Only eats healthy food. Healthy in the sense that it's offered to Krishna. So therefore it's wholesome. Even if it's kacha, dripping with that old frost. I mean, I had that, and I thought, well, it's the whole thing, wasn't it? Okra and potatoes, deep fried in ghee, and then kaja. Who needs anything else? You know, I mean, it's simple in a sense, but man, is it opulent? It's so wonderful. And I tell you, I was having that kaja, and I thought, donut plant, it's nice, but it's a long ways away. This is right here.
And made by Bhakti Rasa.
And made by Bhakti Rasa. So it's imbued with Bhakti Rasa. So devotee eats what's necessary. Mita means little. Just like there's a kind of aside in Chaitanya Charitamrita where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is talking about. He says he cites what is apparently a Bengali proverb about what real eloquence is. Mitam cha saram cha bacho hivagmita, he says. Mitam, not, it doesn't go on, and it says, it makes the point it needs to make. That's real eloquence. So Mita book doesn't eat much. There's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I can't remember the Bengali right now, that says, if you run here and there chasing the demands of the tongue, you can never get Krishna prema. So the devotee doesn't act like that. Mita book, they don't, they're not interested in having a big old feast for lunch every day and breakfast. Whatever Krishna sends, that's fine. The devotee is shanta, peaceful. Devotees are peaceful because they're not trying to exploit the resources of material nature. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Ashanta. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami. People who are desiring material enjoyment and liberation and things like that, yogic perfections, Sakali Ashanta. They can never be peaceful because there's always something else they're going to want. Never going to be satisfied. But Krishna Bhakta, Nishkama. Krishna Bhakta, he doesn't have any desires of his own. She doesn't have any desires of her own. Alta eva shanta. Certainly always peaceful. Because they're not chasing things in this world. So the devotee's sthira, fixed, doesn't become fearful and impatient because he sees that Krishna is the basis of everything. And Krishna says, Mat Sharana, Mat Sharana. That word sound familiar? Mat?
Man?
No, that would be man. Mat Sharana, my. Sharana, shelter. They take shelter of me. Krishnaika Sharanam is another word for devotee. I think that's the way it's put, maybe in the Bhagavatam. Krishnaika Sharanam. They take exclusive shelter of Krishna. That's the essence of Sharanagati. They see Krishna as their sole maintainer and protector, their exclusive maintainer and protector. They depend just like an animal on its owner. They don't go out and get jobs. They're not going down to the welfare office. When we bring the hay, that's when they eat, right? When you give meow meow her cat food, that's when she eats. She doesn't have, she does have some arrangement for something on the side, but that's also part of her deal, and she knows that. But she's not going down to the store, with somebody's food stamp card, trying to buy some, ho-hos or anything like that. She's going to accept the cat food and the little kitty milk and stuff like that. So that's how the devotee is. It's like we had cockatiels. So the cockatiel wouldn't go down to the pet store and buy a bag full of millet sprays. They depended on us to do it. And plus there are other, bird food and stuff like that. But as much as they liked those millet sprays, they completely depended on us to go out and buy that. It's like chocolate for them, I guess. Oh, don't give your birdies chocolate. Not good for them. So the devotee is completely surrendered to Krishna. Krishna is his or her only shelter, his exclusive maintainer and protector. Don't need to make elaborate arrangements. The devotee is muni, thoughtful, avoids becoming distracted from making spiritual progress, and is therefore steady in Krishna consciousness. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur repeatedly exhorted his disciples to be introspective, to be muni, to be thoughtful. Apramatta. Apramatta means they're not nuts. If you act on the basis of being someone other than who you really are, that's nuts. You think you're John F. Kennedy? It's like, the classic, people in the state hospital. Someone thinks he's John F. Kennedy. It's nuts. Someone thinks the CIA is following him. They've got some kind of transceivers in their teeth. I've known people like this. This is the kind of one manifestation of schizophrenia. And so, there are people who think like that. They think the CIA is watching. I had one guy even tell me he was in his dentist's office and the helicopters were outside. The helicopters were hovering outside the window of his dentist's office. And on the television set, the President of the United States was telling the dentist to put the transceivers in the guy's molars. So he's not acting like who he really is. He's Joe Schlub. Works at the post office or bags groceries or something like that. But he's acting like he's like James Bond or something, He thinks thinks the whole world is about him. It's crazy. Devotee's not like that. Devotee understands, I'm eternal servant of Krishna. Humble servant of Krishna. If I can give a little pleasure to Krishna, that's my whole day. Just like when I do my puja, I like to say sometimes, any day that starts with making Krishna smile, I'm going to be okay, no matter what else happens. Dhutiman. Dhutiman means he controls the urges of his tongue and genitals. So we see that. What's the result of someone who can control the senses all lined up, beginning from that means they're able to teach everybody about Krishna consciousness anywhere, wherever they go. You can teach people about Krishna consciousness because they're not chasing, they're steady. They're not chasing after all these things. Jitta Sadguna. Oh, good. So it's knowledge that helps the devotee overcome the urges of the mind and the senses. Amani. Amanina manadena. He's not puffed up. He's not looking for accolades. He's not looking for a big position. Doesn't take these things very seriously. They come and you can use it in Krishna's service. That's cool. If they're a distraction, do without it. Please leave me alone. If he's not able to do that, he or she isn't able to do that somehow, they don't need it. They just simply don't need it. And manada, amani and manada means they're willing to, they're happy to give all respect to others. So the devotee is actually humble. Devotees kalya, expert in helping people understand the truth of Krishna consciousness. Figure out ways to connect with people. Kind of you get a sense of where they're at, and figure out, how to help them appreciate what Krishna consciousness is. Maitra, mitra, friend to everybody. Not going to cheat anybody. And karunika, he's paradukha, right? Karunika, merciful, kind to everybody. His unhappiness or her unhappiness is seeing other people unhappy. So they do whatever they can to help people find the ultimate relief from that. And Kavi is expert in understanding the transcendental qualities of the Lord and presenting them in a way that attracts other people's minds. It's poetic. So these are some of the qualities of a devotee that Krishna calls Uddhava's attention to. So once more, why is it important for us to understand what a devotee acts like, feels like, sounds like?
So we can try and be like them?
Well, so we can try to be like them, but so that we can associate with them. That's who we want to associate with. We don't want to associate with people who are going to make us puffed up. We don't want to associate with people who are cheaters. Just like for years, I'm talking about cheaters, just for years, so many people were like just gaga over Lance Armstrong. This guy came back from cancer. He came back from cancer treatment and he won 7 Tour de France races in a row. Something that will never be done again. And made all kinds of people who weren't necessarily like crazy about bicycle racing interested in the Tour de France every summer. And they all felt like dopes afterwards. Because turns out Lance was doping the whole time. He used to say, well, what do you mean me? I'm the most tested athlete in the history of the world. Yeah, and I'm the best cheater too. You fools.
I didn't know.
Pardon?
I never knew that.
Oh, no, yeah, he got busted. People have been telling tales on him for years, and he was fending those accusations off, and finally it just all collapsed on him, and he had to keep back all his yellow jerseys. His foundation, his Livestrong Foundation, divorced itself from him, and everything. Hey, listen, I was ready to go out and get a yellow Livestrong bracelet.
But he wasn't getting tested?
He was getting tested, and he was able to pay people enough that he was able to get around the tests.
And things that they weren't testing for.
Yeah, he was doing things that they weren't testing for.
Cutting edge of doping.
He was a big cheater. So we don't want to associate with cheaters. We want to associate with devotees who are maitri, who are friendly to everybody, and completely, they're satan, they're honest, thoroughly honest, completely pure, dedicated to Krishna. They don't want anything from us because they don't need anything. They have what they need. Service.
They want to help us.
They just want to help us. All they want to do is serve. My friend Dhaneshwar has come up with this idea of spiritual economy. You engage in devotional service, and what's your pay? More devotional service. So it's all about. Forget the hokey pokey. Oh, anybody have any questions or comments about any of these?
I do.
Goloka.
So when I look at myself, I can see maybe small instances where I might have one of these qualities just for a little bit of time. more I see like I got the opposite qualities. But when I look at other devotees too, I might think, wow, this person has these qualities, or at least some of these qualities, and then you see, no, I guess not. So is it fair to think that given many, many lifetimes, you might keep getting further and further towards having those qualities? I'm sure, I would say certain people have these qualities, but the majority, I would say maybe have some qualities, but not.
So in case there's anybody out in internet land, the question essentially is, it seems that some devotees manifest more of these qualities than others. Is it safe to assume that we might be able to gradually develop them more and more? Only if we practice and associate in the association of devotees. If we do, we will. That's how it works. Just like some people are better guitar players than others. Now, there's the question of innate talent that they bring to it. Some people like Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, or something like that. But what made them Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan is the fact that whenever they could get their hands on a guitar, they fiddled around with it, figured it out, and figured out what they could do with it. So if you practice, you'll become better. These things will develop. And this was part of my teaching as when I taught writing in college. If anybody was an athlete or took music lessons when they were a kid, what did you do? Practiced every day, right? I mean, when I took accordion lessons, it was an hour a day, 5 days a week. It's a long time. When you're 7 years old, an hour. It's a really long time. But that's how you get to be better. You practice every day and you push a little. You push a little. You're never comfortable with what you have. You want more. Same thing with basketball. Michael Jordan brought some innate talent to play in basketball, but he became Michael Jordan by spending every minute he could on the court, testing himself against other kids. So practice, yes, will make perfect. There's a story about Srila Prabhupada where he was playing mridanga licks on his belly. And devotees asked him, wow, Prabhupada, how can you do that? How are you able to do that? Prabhupada just shrugged and said, practice. Is that okay? Anything else? Okay, thank you for your patience. Shri Shri Gauranga Dhamma Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Ashram Swami ki
Jai. Okay.